Hello, good evening, everyone. Welcome to Comprehensive Thoracic Imaging Master Series. We all know that mediastinum is a space in the thorax that contains organs, vessels, nerves, lymphatics, and the surrounding connective tissue. You all know that it is lies in the midline, right? And it is surrounded in the midline of the chest, basically between the pleura of the each lung, extends from anterior to in its posterior aspect from the sternum to the vertebral column, and from the superior to inferior, from the superior thoracic aperture to the diaphragm inferiorly. Now, when you talk about the mediastinum, we know that there are no tissue planes that separate these compartments. As you look at this sagittal section, the anterior, to divide the anterior and the middle compartments, there is an imaginary line, okay, which is drawn uh, anterior to the trachea. This is the trachea. It is drawn anterior to the trachea and posteriorly to the inferior vena cava. And this is the compartment which lies just behind the sternum. The middle and posterior compartments can be separated by an imaginary line again, which is passing 1 centimeter ahead of your to the anterior border of the vertebral bodies. Now, this is how you divide the anterior, middle, and posterior mediastinum. As you can see, the anterior mediastinum is this pink, purple colored area. This blue colored area is going to be your middle mediastinum, and this yellow color is your basically posterior mediastinum. Now, why these mediastinum compartments are important and how we basically why we need them, we are going to be talking about them and a little more in detail about their boundaries. So the International Thalamic Malignancy Interest Group, changed the definition of these compartments, and this was done in 2014-15. And they specified that these compartments, the anterior, medial, and posterior, are divided into prevascular, visceral, and perivertebral. So your prevascular is basically your anterior mediastinal compartment. Your visceral, which contains all your structures, all your esophagus, trachea, all your vessels, heart, is your middle mediastinal compartment, the visceral compartment. And the posterior is the paravertebral, which includes your vertebra as well as your paravertebral spaces. So this was given by the ITMIG group. And this is what is widely followed these days as well for identification of the mediastinal compartments. Now, when you look at these CT cuts, when you look at these actual cuts, as you can see, as per like we've just talked about, you can identify the aspects of the anterior, middle, as well as your posterior mediastinal compartments. Why it is important to know these mediastinal compartments is because each of these compartments have specific boundaries, have specific lesions, masses to their this thing, and we are going to be talking about them, and you can easily delineate and identify once you know about their boundaries and once you are aware of what lesions are commonly seen in each of these compartments. Now, normally we generally do a chest X-ray initially, and once we've done a chest X-ray, we've identified that there is an abnormality in the chest X-ray. So to obtain the cross-sectional imaging to characterize the lesion, what you need is a contrast CT. And contrast CT these days, help you to identify what is the extent of these structures, where are they located, what part of mediastinum, what are their contents, whether they are they have any fat or calcification, specific characteristics of the lesion help you to identify the lesion as well. That is what is something very unique to the mediastinal masses, which we are going to discuss. And these days, with the advent of advancement, you can generate further imaging, like this is the coronal section. You can further generate images which are software generated. There are other aspects to these softwares which help you to identify the extent of the lesion, the kind of lesion, whether there is a solid component, a cystic component, whether there is fat, whether there is associated calcification in that lesion, what part, whether it is invading into the surrounding structures. So CT really helps you to identify and delineate each and every aspect of your mediastinal lesion. Now, more about further imaging, then we have MR imaging, which we also routinely, use for our patients who have renal failure or who are allergic to the IV contrast. But MR for mediastinal structures, sorry, is also required, as it helps to differentiate between, solid and cystic lesions, and also helps you to identify the necrotic components. It is also helpful, I'm really sorry about this, as it helps in good characterization of the lesion that we were just talking about. And it is also, there is less radiation exposure. One thing that we as pulmonologists, less uses, because it gives you poor lung details, as you can see here in this MR cut, that, it would give you lesser details about your lung, lesser detail about your calcification. So not very helpful per se for the lung lesions. Sorry. Then we have the PET scan. Now, PET scan not only helps you to the differentiate the benign and the malignant lesion. In benign conditions, specifically to the mediastinum, like thymic hyperplasia and fibrosing mediastinitis, it can show high FDG uptake, mimicking cancer. So, that limits its use in cases of mediastinal lesions. Also, PET is, helpful in identifying the extent of your disease, the disease activity. It also helps you to identify viable tissue. So, when you're thinking of biopsy, you can consider that specific area of that viable tissue to sample and take your biopsy samples from that specific area. Then, when we talk about chest X-ray per se for evaluation of the mediastinal masses, you've identified that your mass is in the mediastinum. You have ruled out that it is not in the lung or the chest wall. Now you have to identify what compartment of the mediastinum does it belong to. What are its internal characteristics? Does it have a fluid component, a solid component, fat, or calcification? Something about lung lesions, you would see in lung lesions often presence of air bronchograms, which you would not see in mediastinal lesions. Sorry. Then, this is something very characteristic when you have to differentiate between a lung lesion and a lesion which is present in the, whether the mass is in the lung or it is in the mediastinum. Basically, how do you differentiate? So, a lung mass would form and would create an acute angle with the mediastinum, and the mediastinal mass would create an obtuse angle. The margins will be like obtuse, as you can see here. There would be associated spinal and costal sternal abnormalities. You would see air bronchograms only in a lung lesion, not in a mediastinal lesion. So another X-ray, as you can see these two X-rays, you can see two mass lesions here. As you see that this is a mediastinal mass which is forming an obtuse angle. And this is a lung mass which is forming an acute angle. So, this helps you to differentiate whether the mass is in the lung per se or in the mediastinum. Then, once you've localized that the lesion is in the mediastinum, you need to know what compartment it is in. There are a lot of signs which we often talk about. Dr. Zafar had spoken about these signs quite in brief because they are often asked in exams for the students. So I am going to be talking about these signs. So when you talk about the signs, the first is a Sillet sign. Now we all know Sillet sign is what? It is basically that there are two structures which are in anatomical continuity of each other, which have the same density. So what would they do? They would obscure the border. Look at these chest X-rays on your left and right. You can see that the Sillet in both of these is is there, right? The Sillet sign is positive. So if the Sillet sign is there, then this is an anterior mediastinal mass. As you can see, there's the obscuration of the heart border. Then the next sign is the hilum overlay sign. Now, when you see a hilar prominence, a hilar mass, a hilar lesion, if you can see the vessels through the lesion, then the lesion is either anterior or posterior to the hilum, which is your hilum overlay sign. As you can see on this chest radiograph as well, if you can see the vessels through the lesion, then it is anterior or posterior to the hilum and not over the hilum. Then there's something known as a hilum convergence sign. Now, look at this chest X-ray. You can see there is hilar prominence, And if there is a hilar prominence and if there are vessels which are converging towards the hilum from all the sides, then then this helps you basically to differentiate. This sign basically helps you to differentiate between a whether there is a on the hilum, whether there is a lymph node or a mass, or it is a dilated pulmonary artery. Now, when there is a convergence of the vessels from all sides, then this generally goes to show that it is a dilated pulmonary artery, not a mass or a node at the hilum. Then the next is the cervicothoracic sign. Now, look at this chest radiograph, and you can see that there is a lesion in the upper thorax. Usually, when there is a lesion in the anterior mediastinum, it does not cross the clavicles. As you can see here, the margins become fuzzy over the clavicles. This shows that this is generally in the neck or the anterior mediastinum. Now, cervicothoracic sign is for your posterior mediastinal mass, wherein you see that the mass is crossing the clavicle. The mass is above the clavicles. So this is your cervicothoracic sign, and it suggests that the mass is in the posterior mediastinum. Now, the last is the thoraco-abdominal sign, wherein, as you can see, if you can appreciate, there's a mass here which is crossing your diaphragm. It's going towards the abdomen. When this is seen, this is a thoraco-abdominal sign, and this is also seen in posterior mediastinal masses. So these uh, signs basically help you to delineate the presence of which compartment where the mediastinal mass is present, whether anterior, middle, or posterior mediastinum. Then, once you have identified your lesion on the X-ray, for further characterization of the lesion, you need the CT or an MRI scan. Now, when you look at these two CT axial cuts, you can see that in this, you can see a large paratracheal lymph node. Often we see this in sarcoid infections like tuberculosis, lymphomas, malignancies. Another CT cut, which is showing you paratracheal as well as prevascular nodes. They also have some low attenuation areas, areas of breakdown within the nodes, commonly seen in conditions like tuberculosis, but can also be seen in few cases of malignancy. So, whether one of the characteristics is whether the lymph node, whether there is lymph node or not, and what sort of lymph node. That helps you to basically again aid to further diagnosis. Now you've identified the second characteristic is what compartment, like we just talked about the compartments. So which compartment? As you can see, this is a mass lesion on this cut, which is anterior to the heart. So this is your anterior mediastinal mass. Then again, in this CT cut, you can see there's a mass lesion, cystic mass lesion, which is close to the esophagus in the middle mediastinum. And similarly, along the vertebral body, you can see two lobulated masses. So this suggests that the mass is in the posterior mediastinum. Now you've localized the mass. Now whether it's extending or not, you can see a large fatty mass here anterior to the heart, close to the anterior recess. Now, when you look at this lesion, you think that this is a margin, but when you see the same patient's coronal section, you can see that there is a large diaphragmatic rent here. And this is basically your mental fat, which is extending into the thorax. It's close to the patient's heart, which is what was appearing like a mass lesion here. And this was basically a case of Morgagni's hernia. But this is how you identify the extension. Then whether the mass is solid, cystic, or vascular in nature. Now remember something, when you have to differentiate this one, you have to always compare CT plane and your contrast images and the HU value. Look at this axial cut, and you can see that there is a large lesion here. Looks like a cystic lesion. Why cystic? Because one, the HU value of this lesion, if you do the contrast, it will be less, it will be 0 to 10. Secondly, if you give contrast, there'll be no enhancement. Again, which suggests that this is a cystic lesion. Another CT cut from another patient, and you can see there's a solid mass here. Now, when you give contrast to this patient, there'll be enhancement of this mass lesion further, which tells you that this looks like a solid mass in the mediastinum. Now, look at this another cut, CT cuts from a different patient. If you look at this CT, you might feel that this is a large cystic lesion in the mediastinum. But when this patient was given contrast, there was a flow of the contrast through the lesion. I'm sorry, the cut is not complete. So this enhancement was similar to that of the vascular structures around, which suggested that this mass is vascular in nature. It has actually blood flowing through it. Now, presence of fat. Why fat is important in mediastinal structures is because there are some specific lesions in the mediastinum which would show you presence of fat. As you can see, this is a large lesion here. We just talked about this. This was a case of diaphragmatic hernia, just discussed, because I showed you a different CT aspect of this as well. But you can often think of this as a lipoma as well. Now look at this well-defined cyst, but you can see a fat in this. Now, these sort of lesions are usually seen in cases of teratomas. Then again, there is a large lesion here on this CT cut. You can see there is a solid component to it, there is fat component to it. Normally, this sort of a lesion is seen in liposarcoma. Always remember, it is not just the CT. There is clinical aspects, there is history, there is presentation, there is a duration of symptoms, there is everything involved, and it is always together which helps you delineate the diagnosis. Again, look at this paravertebral large lesion. There's something in the pleura as well as the lung, which we're not going to discuss. But these were the CTs which were discussed by Dr. Zafar Niaz sir in detail. And this is how he explained that, you can see that this also has a solid and cystic component, unlike here. But look at the location, this is in the posterior mediastinum. So this was one of the rare cases with the history of extramedullary hematopoiesis. But it again depends a lot on your history and presentation of the patient. Do not ever forget that. Now, another characteristic is the presence of calcification. Look at this lesion in the mediastinum, which has a cystic component, it has some fatty component, there is some calcification, which is generally, suggests that this would be a benign teratoma. Again, a lesion here, large lesion with presence of calcification, and this was a case of neuroblastoma. Another lesion in this axial cut, you can see it is also eroding through the vertebral body. There's some calcification, there is some, fatty content, there's some cystic lesions here. So this was a case of neurogenic tumor. Now, these diagnoses have not just come from the CT per se. There's a lot of history, there's a lot of clinical correlation, and the presentation of the patient. The area of the mediastinum also makes a lot of difference that we've just discussed. Now, the sixth aspect of the characteristics of mediastinal masses is whether it is a well-defined or an infiltrated. You can see that it's a well-defined lesion here, and this is infiltrating all over into the surrounding structures. Then, if effect on the adjacent structures, whether there is encasement without luminal narrowing, with new luminal narrowing, whether there's displacement of the surrounding structures, these sort of scans help you to identify, especially the surgeon, to understand the surgical aspects, what structures will be encountered, what all they'll be coming across, how to approach these lesions. So when there is effect on the adjacent structures, it really changes the overall approach to the lesion, and how you would further progress to manage that lesion. Then associated findings like presence of effusion, presence of deposits, presence of bony erosions, presence of lung lesions, presence of lymph nodes, these always add to the findings, aid to your diagnosis. Then PET CT. I've already mentioned a bit about PET CT. It not only helps you to delineate between the benign and malignant lesions, it also helps you to identify the extent of disease. It helps you to see whether there is any associated metastasis, what are the associated organs and other parts of the body involved, the tissue viability in case where you have to take in biopsy. It can help you to guide to identify the area from where you can take the biopsy. So to summarize, whether the characteristics of mediastinal lesions, lymph node or not, localization, whether it's in a single or multiple compartment, extending into the neck, abdomen, or adjacent structures, solid or cystic lesion, or vascular in nature, presence of fat, calcification, well-defined or infiltrative margins, effect on adjacent structures, whether there is luminal narrowing, uh, encasement with narrowing, displacement, and then PET CT. So we've talked about the boundaries, we've talked about the contents, just to again emphasize that the prevascular is your anterior compartment. It consists of thymus, fat, lymph nodes, and left brachiocephalic vein. The visceral is your middle compartment, which has your non-vascular structures like your trachea, carina, esophagus, and lymph nodes. Vascular structures like your heart, ascending, descending aorta, pulmonary arteries, and thoracic duct. Then paravertebral, which is your posterior compartment and consists of the thoracic spine and paravertebral soft tissues. Then we talk about the lesions in the each compartment of the mediastinum. So the anterior mediastinal masses are usually thymic in origin. There can be lymphomas, thymic hyperplasia, germ cell tumor, and lymphangiomas. The four T's for the mnemonic of anterior mediastinal masses, this is again for students: thymus, teratomas, thyroid, and the terrible lymphoma. Then the middle mediastinum, you have lymph nodes, which can be granulomatous, metastatic. Your lymphomas and leukemias are also seen in the middle mediastinum. Low attenuation lesions and masses from infections like tuberculosis and fungal infections, and then calcified from old TB, fungus, as well as in cases of osteosarcoma. Then in the posterior mediastinum, it's virtually always neurogenic in origin. First decade is usually malignant, neuroblastoma, and second decade is usually your benign, like ganglioma, neurofibromas, and rarely schwannomas or your EMH. Then common amongst mediastinal masses, we have lymphomas, lymphadenopathies, whether infectious, non-infectious, malignancy, thymomas, and thyroid masses. Then, these were studies across the Indian regions, and they saw that prevascular mediastinum was the most commonly involved region. Commonly among the prevascular were the lymphomas and thymomas and germ cell tumors, and posteriorly were neurogenic. Most commonly, it was male predominance in the second and fourth decade. For lymphomas, elderly patients had more of thymic epithelial tumors, and germ cell tumors were most more exclusive were exclusive to males. Now, there can be more than one compartment because we know there are no tissue planes that separate the mediastinal compartments. And commonly, the lesions which occupy more than one compartment are in case of mediastinitis, hematomas, bronchogenic cancer, metastasis, and lymphangiomas. Now, just to summarize and in brief, how would you approach? You've detected a mediastinal mass on a chest X-ray or CT. You've determined which compartment it is in, whether it's anterior, middle, or posterior. You need to determine that. Then you assess and you look for suspicious features. You look at the size, invasion, patient symptoms, what is the presentation. Then you accordingly plan how to approach, whether you do a USG or CT guided or a VATS biopsy, a EBUS TBNA, whether you do an MRI, or you do take even in some cases take a surgical consult. And then further management of the lesion would depend upon the histopathology. Now, to conclude, we need to know the mediastinal anatomy, which is foundational. You need to know which compartment it belongs to, and which basically tells you the exact location of the mass. Then you need to know the angles and the contours. You should be able to localize the mass. You should know whether it's a lung mass, a mediastinal mass, it's in the chest or it's in the chest wall. Then you need to know about the retrosternal space as well. Differential diagnosis, we've already talked about each mediastinum, its boundaries, contents, as well as the specific lesions to the each mediastinum, cystic versus solid lesions. And we know that MRI it helps in differentiating solid and cystic masses, especially in equivocal or contrast allergic cases. Then mediastinal masses can have diverse clinical presentations. They can present as compressive symptoms of stridor, dysphagia, SVCO, systemic features of fever, weight loss, night sweats, and they can even be incidentally detected on imaging. Children can have varied presentations of neuroblastoma in posterior mediastinum and Hodgkin's in the anterior. Then small biopsies via EBUS, TBNA, or CT guided FNAC are now a standard and is essential, but they have limited yield often. And in some in non-diagnostic cases, repeat sampling or surgical excision may be required, especially in TP endemic regions like ours, where lymphomas can mimic granulomatous inflammation. So you have to be very, very, very careful while deciding what modality you want to use for your FNAC biopsy. And always remember, it is a multidisciplinary approach. You need to involve radiologists, pathologists, thoracic surgeons, as well as oncologists, because you want to optimize the diagnostic yield, reduce delays, and improve outcome. These were my references. Thank you.